Draft HQ at LAFD Air Operations, each of you and your reactions to that being where it's being hosted this.
Hey,
Go ahead,
Sean,
Les.
don't you love these dual press conferences where you don't know answers first? Is it
I'll
you? Is
defer
it
to you
me?
on these. I'll let you take it, and then I'll follow you up.
You know what that's I think it that goes without being said, all that occurred in this area and what right the first responders, especially the fire department, did. Uh hey, they just woke up and did their job, but it was a heck of a job that they did. Not everyone uh right has that type of responsibility. So it's an honor to somewhat honor them living probably in an area that has been affected by fires. It's definitely something that's personal to me and in this community, personal to a lot of people who've been affected a lot, let's call it harder than I have.
Yeah, no, I think it's perfectly said by Les, and it's a great opportunity, really, to use the platform that we're blessed with to recognize the real heroes. And I think Les and I talk about all the time being servant leaders, making a choice to go into that profession embodies, serving others, being a part of something bigger than yourselves, and then really being called to action when things that are way bigger than football occur. And so it was awesome when Les and I got a chance to go over there and meet so many of these special people that we'll be amongst in a couple days. And then the debate was between Les and I, who's Goose and who's Maverick.
All right, we need a show of hands. Uh,
So yeah,
I
no, I
said,
got you guys' attention on that one.
show of hands, Sean as Maverick. Oh man,
All right, let's.
I did tell Sean I'd settle for being Goose. Seems. It's been a while since I've seen Top Gun, but I think I was a Goose fan. I'd have grown up and become Goose if I could have.
Adam?
Thank you.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that up, but Sean, in January, you talked about looking to have a more versatile offense in 2025. How, if at all, has that goal changed the way you've approached the draft or evaluated prospects who have come across your desk?
Yeah, I think it's constant communication between Les, his group, myself and our coaches, and that's the best thing we've got is collaboration. I think we'll have a lot of clarity. That you talk about all the different contingency plans. You talk about doing a good job with the players that we know for sure will be a part of our offense moving forward. And then a lot of that entails studying teams that you have a lot of respect and reverence for around the league and figuring out, all right, what is that vision? How do we want to make sure that we're working towards that vision while also having the necessary fluidity and flexibility? So I think there'll be a little bit more clarity in the direction that we want to go. But I think if last year taught us anything, it's that let's set really good foundations. There's things that are consistent, whether you're talking about offense, defense, or in the kicking game, that if you're going to play at a high level, you have to be able to do. And then how you evolve and adapt tactically, always starts with your personnel, how you're attacking the scheme, and then what's the availability of your players. And so feel really good about the communication that's existed and the different directions that we can go, especially as it relates to adding quality players just for our team in general this weekend.
And Les, you talked after Matthew's restructure about looking toward adding his eventual successor as soon as it made sense. So without going into specific prospects, how do you look at this year's quarterback crop?
I don't think I could truly answer that honestly. So I'll keep that internal how we view it. Yeah, I think it's interesting. The only thing I can add or any insight would be, I think, I think when you prepare for a draft, there's however many other positions there are, and it can get pretty micro and nuanced, whether you're a star, whether you're out in corner, whether you're OLB, whether you're all those things. I do think all those positions you kind of evaluate in a bucket, and then and if you're going to get down and go down the quarterback path, that's an entirely different bucket based on all the requirements it takes to, play QB in this league at a successful rate.
Thank you.
Gary?
Okay, this question is for Maverick McVay and Iceman
Oh,
Snead.
what a name!
Shay, Gary, touche.
Uh,
Maverick McVay. That he's Maverick from this point out.
What did we just do?
Um, anyway, I just wanted to ask, in light of kind of the success you guys have had, especially in the last two drafts, do you feel like you guys are on something of a hot streak in terms of drafting players?
Well, I think Les and his group, I think they've done a great job. I got to give them a ton of credit, for the discipline and really his group as a whole for the amount of information that they're able to gather and try to put together ways of measuring things that are really hard to, have tangible measurements for. There's been a specific theme that we've followed, and it always starts with the person. Obviously, there's a bottom line of production that's necessary when you watch the tape. But I think there's been a consistent buy-in. There's been a vision for all of these guys. And I think that, like I said, Les and his group deserve a ton of credit. The collaboration that exists between coaches, staff, I think has been paramount in the success. And then ultimately these players have come in and delivered and they're wired a certain way. And I think you want to make sure that when you look back, there's been a lot of really good decisions that we've made. And then there's been some different things that we can always learn from. And I think that's one of the best things about our group as a whole is, there's consistent after action reviews from the good, the bad, and let's try to apply those things so that we're able to replicate good decisions by betting on people. And I think that's what we've done each of the last couple of years. This is a people first business. It always has been, always will be. And we've hit the mark on special human beings that are wired the right way and then have physical traits that allow them to reach and realize their highest potential when you put them in an environment that we hope to create and cultivate on a daily basis.
Les, what do you think?
Yeah, to add to that, that was a really good answer. The continuity that's experienced
Yeah.
together. So now you have a really good understanding of the schemes being deployed, and then as Sean and his staff evolve, as he said, based on how the league's evolving, how people are defending or offending us, depending on what side of the ball. So that is really neat. Now, what's even hard is within that comes disruption and new coordinators, new coaches. So even with continuity, there can be disruption and things. But I think that really allows us to really look at, okay, right, how does a player give us an edge? Both, right, I call it on the field, off the field. They need to have both. I think when players can give us, right, an edge, and there's a vision of how the coaching staff, right, uses that edge, and then that player's makeup provides an edge for him to come in and actually just be coached, go on the field, do his or her job at a right successful level. It usually leads to, let's call it better draft picks when you look back on the Wikipedia page.
We were talking with Matthew yesterday, and one of the questions that came up was regarding, if the Rams decided to draft a quarterback, how would he feel about that? Do you guys, if you were going to draft a quarterback, whether it was in the first round or later rounds, is that something you would discuss with Stafford before you did it, or in real time?
Yes. Yeah. No, those are, I think there's been a lot of instances where, you never regret over communicating, creating clarity for people as opposed to why. When we drafted Stetson Bennett a couple years ago, I made sure to communicate with him beforehand. But I think, you want to be as inclusive as you can, especially to players that are in his position. And so that would be something that we would do just like we did when we drafted Stetson a couple years ago.
And then finally, not necessarily related to the draft, but Miami has made it known that Jalen Ramsey can be traded. Just curious from both of you if you'd be interested in reacquiring Jalen.
I know I've had discussions with Miami, so we've discussed getting through the draft. I mean, I know there's a lot of nuances to that situation based on all the things that come with the trade, contracts and things like that. So not sure where they're at in the process. And what's interesting in this is a lot of teams are right now focused on the draft. But this is when a lot of teams reach out, not just Jalen, but oh, by the way, how things go in the draft, there's other players that could be available. So you almost come back to a second free agency per se, get with your pro scouting staff and kind of figure out if trades are made and it's player for player, things like that. So that's all part of the process. So whether it being Miami and Jalen, I can't say there's a lot of teams with other players that I'll keep in-house.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great player. We know him very well. We know him intimately. You would certainly never rule out the possibility of that. But I think, like Les articulated, our focus and concentration is on this week's upcoming draft. There's a lot of layers that would need to be worked out with a player of his magnitude and some of the different things that accompany that. But you would never eliminate the possibility of adding a total stud and a guy that can do a lot of different things like he's continued to do, like he did here, like he did in Jacksonville, and like he's done for the last couple years in Miami.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Wyatt.
Thank you both for doing this. For Les, Nicole Blake is one of the people who got a title bump after the departure of James Gladstone. What are some of the new responsibilities that she's been given, and what's kind of your evaluation of how she's handled those things?
I give her an A plus. We, put a lot on her desk when we did leave, because when James left and then subsequently Jake, there was an element of right. You had a couple of starters who are now out, so we had to somewhat get together and say how triage it. Can't replace the people, as Sean says. They're all different in their own ways, but there were responsibilities that we had to continue executing. So that's what we tried to do. And she's someone that has been evolving with us over the last few years. So she was definitely up for the task, and I'd give her an A plus. She's probably never made below an A plus, considered her academic career, being a Duke alum and Stanford MBA. So A pluses is what she's used to.
There you go.
I'm
Definitely
betting.
believe that.
I've never made an A plus. I wonder what that feels like.
And for Sean, what's just kind of the mood been in the building the last couple of days, getting the players back in the building?
No, it's been great. I think you realize how much you love coaching. There's just an extra little bit of energy that you feel being around these guys. There's just so much more life in our building. This is why you do it. This is why you love what a blessing it is to be able to, start building these relationships, start building this team from the ground up, setting those foundations. Love these guys. And I'm really excited about, the players that we brought back, signing them through free agency, and then being able to add 4 new players, one which we were obviously very familiar with in Coleman Shelton. Got 6 new coaches on the staff. It's a light turnover year for us. And so really excited about the journey, and started yesterday. And I think guys have done an excellent job of understanding that what the intent is, and 2 good days in the book so far.
Thank you both.
You're welcome. Jordan?
Hey, first one for either of you, just a quick point of clarity on the record, if possible. There's been some a buzz, pre-draft buzz about you guys hosting a top 30 visit. It was my understanding that you guys don't do 30 visits. You send Andy Sugarman and Kellen off to do the specific missions at the schools. Can you clarify, have you guys changed your process in that regard, or are you still not doing the 30 visits?
You know what I'd say, Jordan? I used to say that you can't believe everything you read. It only costs a quarter. I think the internet's for free. So maybe who you work for, Jordan, you got to buy a subscription. So that's a little different.
I think you understand our process. It hasn't changed.
Thank you. And then, Sean, what traits are you looking for in receivers as you kind of rebuild that room with Puka and Devontae?
Such a good question. There's a lot of guys in our receiver room right now. There's a lot of guys that are available in this draft. And I think, at the crux of it is, are they mentally wired the right way? Are they able to get open and catch the football? But there's different types of things that are brought to life. Are you a guy that plays with a big catch radius? Do you have aggressive and soft hands? Can you run and create after the catch? Are you a speed guy that's tracking the ball down the field? And I think there's all different types of receivers that are going to be productive and valuable. I think when you look at the guys that if we got into 11 personnel right now, obviously 3 really special players in Devontae, Puka, and Tutu. Really excited about Jordan Whittington. Xavier made the most of his opportunities, but they're very different. And so I think it's ultimately being able to see, are they going to be able to produce in this league, and what would be the vision and the fit that we have for them. But to say there's one standard approach, I think when you just look at the guys, if we got out in 11 personnel right now with Tutu, Devontae, and Puka, all of those guys are very good players, but they're very different. And I think they have complementary skill sets while also having all around skill sets. And so I don't know that there's a straight answer. I think you'd have to say, all right, let's talk about a specific player. What would that vision be? There's a lot of guys on our current roster. There was guys in free agency, and there's guys in the draft. I know that doesn't answer your question much, but that is the truth.
And then for either one of you or both, you guys did a lot of work structurally to kind of pair your offensive line together for at least most of them for at least the next 2 seasons. Rob Havenstein, obviously, on the last year of his contract entering this season. So naturally, I think we'd look at right tackle as something you guys might be looking at. But in terms of the group overall, as you look for depth and possible people to, the lights just shut off on me also, possible people to potentially start for you guys at some point, what are you looking for just for the group as a whole, if anything?
Yeah, I think continuity, overall toughness, communication, clarity, and whatever it is, whether it's the run or the pass game. I think when you look at some of the different things, some guys that were kind of new to the mix last year, couldn't have been more impressed with Bo Limmer's ability to be able to do everything that he did, all the things that we asked of him. I thought Warren McClendon, when he came in, particularly on the right side, played really well in Rob's absence. You look at the amount of valuable playing time that a Justin Dedich ended up getting for us. I thought we saw good things in Dylan McMahon. So I think when you really look at it, really excited about re-signing Alaric. Rob played really well. I think being able to get a couple of those shoulder surgeries cleaned up where he's feeling good, he's able to really start a good program to set a foundation, feel good about our tackle spots. And then, Steve going through some challenging things where he has the injury, he comes back, plays really well for us, and really got a lot better as the season progressed. And then I thought Kevin Dotson had a complete season. Really was available, was able to play in all the games, has a physicality, has a joy that he plays with that I think emanates across the line of scrimmage. And then we're fired up to be able to have Coleman back, guy that has great command, great competitiveness and toughness, good production in both phases. So I think some of the depth that we were able to develop from the inside just based on those injuries, Warren McClendon gaining valuable experience really on the left and the right side. But you're continuing to really just be able to add quality players to that group. You're not naive to the fact that when you just look at it year in and year out, you need to have 8 guys, if not 9 and 10. And for our case last year, it was 10 to 11. But you need to be ready to play a lot of those guys. And our ability to draft, develop, continue to do that in-house is going to be key and critical. And when we were playing well up front, it usually translated to everybody else playing really well. And then when there was challenges, it really, creates challenges. And if last year wasn't a great example that everything starts up front on both sides, I don't know what was for us. And that's going to be things that I think when you look around the league that the really good teams lean into. And we've got to continue to be able to do that, both with the way that we onboard people and how we develop and how we, have contingency plans if people go down.
Thanks. Also, Adam owes Gary a sushi dinner because we bet that he wouldn't do the Top Gun reference.
I mean, I laid him up for that. I should get half of that. That's pretty good, Gary. I like it, man. You shot your shot. You swished it, pal.
Take more threes, Gary. Take more threes.
And then we'll wrap with Sarah and then Eric.
Hey guys, this is for both of you. Been working together for a while now. How have you seen the way you work together and maybe your communication style change and evolve over the years?
You want this, Les, or me? You go ahead.
I think you're going to do a hell of a job answering this question.
I would say this, Sarah. I think there was an immediate rapport even when I interviewed in terms of seeing the game through a similar lens. I couldn't be more appreciative of the evolving relationship, but it's always been great from the jump. I think we're even closer. I think some of the challenging things that, I've gone through and feeling the support and the really care that's bigger than are we winning and losing on a Sunday. I truly cherish, leading alongside Les, working alongside him. I have such a high level of respect for, number one, who he is as a person, the way that he moves, the way that he does certain things. But then also the way that we see the game, the way he works at it, the caliber of evaluator he is, the caliber of principles and core values that he stands for. And then I do think while we have a different personality, I think there's a beauty in that, but there's a friendship at the foundation of all of it where we really care about each other. And I think it's only gotten better through experiences. I think that's one of the things that he kind of alluded to earlier. You go into year 9, there is an understood collaboration, connection, camaraderie that exists that you don't take for granted. I think that's been an edge for us. You look at around the league, we are one of the longer tenured head coach GM combinations, and I think we complement each other really well. We don't want to do each other's job, but we want to be able to assist in any way that we can to serve, to really help us be the leaders and the ambassadors of this organization that the Cronkies want us to be able to be. And, it's only gotten better. And I think we can have comfort in some of our disagreements, and we know each other when we get to certain levels. And I think we're one of the few people for each other that can kind of get each other back to normal, or be able to kind of make a joke to laugh at ourselves. And it's something that's a real edge, but I'm very grateful for the relationship that we have. That's bigger than the work relationship.
That's great answer. If I get on a lighter note, I guess the personality differences would be why he's Maverick and I'm Goose, I'm assuming. But I think if I added anything, there was, as Sean said, from the start, there's a natural chemistry. We shared similar values as humans and saw the game very similarly. But a good friend of mine, Bronco Mendenhall, who's been coaching this business a long time, says that, okay, then when you go do hard things together, one of the tests of times of really meaningful, impactful relationships are when you do get to the end of those hard things, doing those hard things together, do you want to continue doing them? Like you want to. Not that, oh, by the way, we're partners, we have to do it. You want to do hard things together. And that's the cool thing where we're at so many years in is I want to do hard things with Sean. And then along the way, enjoy some of the less hard things.
Les, I know you guys were here, you were here first, but seems like I think the last 2 contracts, I believe you guys have been lined up together. What does, I guess, that sense of partnership and kind of being tied together like that mean to you, or I guess how you feel about that?
You know what? If I were to say it, one thing, I mean, when Sean got here, we and mainly through him implemented the we then me mantra. So in a football operation, whether it's the head coach, GM, owner, president, a lot of players. I mean, it's not it's not singles tennis. So I think at the end of the day, that all that represents that, we're partners. We got each other's back. We're going to both show up and try to pull our weight.
No doubt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Eric.
Hey guys, thanks again for doing this. 2 questions. The first question it's already kind of been answered. I'll ask a different way. In terms of the quarterback evaluation, you guys have brought in Jimmy G, Baker, Carson Wentz, guys that were drafted by other teams. That said, how important is it in terms of evaluating these guys with the fact that you might have another chance at them, a different way, whether it's trade or free agency?
You know what, Eric? I think you paused at the first part of that question.
Yeah.
So I might have. So you did. So you could, if you might better ask that one again.
Sure. In terms of evaluating this year's draft class, you've brought in guys like Jimmy G and Baker and Carson that you didn't draft initially. Is it important to kind of get a good read on guys in this year's class, considering you might have another chance to get them a different way?
Yeah, I'll answer that. I think it is interesting when you go meet with QBs. There's many, right? You want to learn about them for this class. You also, as you said, if you get to know them now, when they are maybe unrestricted free agents or some version of a trade, you have that data point as well. And then even it can even be when you go play against these players, right? You can learn about who your enemy on that Sunday is going to be. So there's many variables to getting to know these people for sure.
And then lastly, you guys talked about at the owner meeting, the tush push and kind of the back and forth that's going on there. Can you just kind of talk again about why you're for banning that play?
Yeah, I don't know that it's exclusively that. I think the crux of the issue is around really pushing other players, but making sure there's clarity in terms of how it's going to be officiated. My understanding is it'll probably be something that's revisited in May. I think one of the things that I would talk about is, it was really allowing that play to get in the first place. But I will acknowledge that I don't believe in being a hater because the Eagles and the Bills do it better than we were capable of. If we executed it at that kind of level, we would probably be doing it as well. But I think really what it revolves around is saying, okay, we're not in the game, in the business of pushing other people or assisting and helping the runner. We've kind of allowed that into the game. And then when you go back a handful of years, and then there's some issues and conversations around the field goal block play. But I do think that where the issue will end up really coming to a head is talking about, do we want to prevent the assistance of pushing the runner? And that could take away some positive plays that we had last year where guy gets kind of stood up and you're pushing a pile. There was an example of that against the Jets, even a screen that we threw to Nakua against the Vikings in the playoff game would be one of these. And so I'll be interested to see. I would imagine that's a rule that's going to be proposed. But I think it is also important, everything revolves around health and safety, but also making sure that there's clarity for the refs to be able to officiate this, and then us to ultimately get it communicated to our players in regards to what our expectations are, how it's being viewed, what is going to be deemed legal and illegal. But it was more the optics of the play that I had a problem with, while also acknowledging that if we did it as well as the Eagles, we would probably be activating it a little bit more as well. And I'm not afraid to admit that.
So
how about our quarterback sneaks though, Eric? What about those quarterback sneaks?
We were actually pretty good on the QB sneaks last year.
And hey, someone asked about
people off guard.
The evolution of our relationship, Sean being able to be a voice for the competition committee. You know what? I never saw that on the bingo card when we started 9 years ago.
That's a good one.
So, Coach, do you kind of want to go back to the way it was previously officiated when you couldn't add on when a guy was running, get to the goal line and you could push him?
Yeah, here's what I would say. I think what needs to occur, Eric, is a proposal and understanding of how that language would be interpreted, and then I'd be better equipped to answer it. There's a lot of layers to that, so I think I'd want to understand. But that's really probably where the next discussion is, as opposed to exclusively just voting on taking out the tush play. I think it's going to be more along the lines of preventing yourself from pushing or assisting a runner in that manner. And the tush play would fall under those parameters, as would some other ones that I think it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So I'll be better equipped after the May meetings and kind of where this goes to give you my true opinion.
Are you enjoying your time on the competition committee, Coach McVay?
Yeah, no, it's been good. I've appreciated the inclusion of it, and I've learned a lot. You get exposure and access to some really special people. And I think really when you look at it, the intent is this game has been such a blessing to me. I've been a part of, obviously I got into this business because of the legacy that my grandfather set. And so for Troy and for Commissioner Goodell and getting a chance to work with some of the other people on the committee, I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. And I think with the goal and the emphasis of continuing to move our game forward, both from a health and safety, but also just making it as good of a product and as clean and crisp as possible. This game has sure given me a lot. And if it's one of those ways that you can give back while also getting a chance to meet some really special people, I have enjoyed it each of the last couple years.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric, you took the bait. You know what? Distract Eric with a competition committee question. They don't ask about the draft. Now Artis is closing this up and we can get out of here without you going, who are you picking at 26?
Les, you weren't going to give us anything anyway.
All right. Maverick McVay out.
Me.
Gary, I'll give you that one. See you guys.